to Real Estate and You. I'm Gail Freeman with Century 21 Woodland Realty, Flushing, Michigan. Today we will be talking with Sharon Withey that will be talking about taxes today. And she's with Diversified Tax Service. Sharon, I'd like to welcome you to the show today to give us some insight of what we need to know concerning taxes.
Okay.
But before we get started, would you give us a little background and information about yourself?
Sure, I will. I started doing taxes 18 years ago with a large tax company, and they have their guidelines and rules that you have to abide by, their charges and everything, and I wanted to be able to make those decisions myself. So I started my own company, Diversified Tax Service, so that I can get more comfortable, more familiar with my clients on a more personal level and not like a big box store or, a big company. So I started Diversified Tax Service in 2008. We're located on G3560 Flushing Road in Flint. And we've grown from 2008 from 80 clients to a little over 500 now. And another reason I started the business is to be able to get more information out to people about having somewhere to go you feel comfortable with and is not going to overcharge you. People tend to go to different places every year based on what they did to me then. And so you really need to stay somewhere where you feel comfortable. We are prepared to do your tax returns just like any other place.
Very good, Sharon. So you make them feel comfortable because they've come to you and their information is private.
Yes.
And it's a smaller incorporation versus one of the largest, as you stated.
Yes.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to still have you here on the program to share that. But now let's get into how do you pick a tax preparer?
Well, I'm going to go over this list here that I have, and this is from the IRS website, and it's 10 tips to help you choose a tax preparer. Number one, to check the preparer's qualification. They have to have what is called a PTIN. It's a PTIN. It's a preparer tax identification number. The IRS requires you to have this number to put on a tax return, and because we don't use our Social Security numbers anymore. And to have this number, you have to register on the IRS website to get it. So number one, make sure they have a PTIN. That way you know they're at least registered with the IRS to do a tax return. The second thing is check their history. Anybody can Google whatever. Everybody know how to go online and Google it. Put it in, put their name in, their company name, and see if you get any flags that come up. If there's a problem with it, it will show up. The next thing is ask about their service fee. A lot of times, if you heard on the street that a person tries to charge you based on your refund. If anybody charges you a % of your refund, you need to take your stuff and go. So make sure, ask them, what are your fees based on? Is it per form or does it have to do with my refund? Ask if they offer electronic filing. Now, electronic filing should never have a fee. It's a free option from the IRS. Everybody can file electronically free. There's no fee for it. When we submit something to the IRS, it's just a free thing that you can do. Okay? So if they charge you for electronic filing, that shouldn't happen. Okay? Make sure your tax preparer is accessible. This means that if you need them, you should be able to get them. If I call your phone number, if I visit your business, you should be there and available. If you have someone where you call them and you don't get an answer, no messages, phone disconnected, and you can't get in touch with them after tax season, you don't want to go there. You want to have somebody that's accessible all year long, not just at tax time. Another important point is they have to provide you with your records and receipts. Provide all records and receipts needed to prepare your return. They're going to ask you that. When you come into the office, make sure you bring your income tax documents, your ID, and your Social Security card for everyone that's going to be on that tax return. Because the IRS wants that information available to the tax return preparer. You can't just go in there with expired IDs. You have to have an ID that is current. We cannot take any identification that has been expired. Okay? Never sign a blank tax return. If they say, here, this is your tax return, could you sign this for me? Don't sign it, because that means they got a return with your signature that they can change later on after you leave. So, because they're going to do your tax return and then give you a copy. If you sign something before that and they keep that, they can change your tax return and file that one and they can get more money. So always ask questions as they're doing your tax return, find out where they are as far as your refund, and they know what they're talking about, number one. If they ask you the right questions, you know that they know what they're talking about when they prepare your return. Okay, review the entire return before signing it. Look at your tax return before you sign it. You may not know what you're looking at. If you don't know, ask questions. What is this here? What is this line? Why is my refund this amount? Last year it was this amount, and now it's this. Ask questions about it and see how they came up to that bottom line on your tax return. Okay, make sure the preparer signs your tax return and include their PTIN. The tax software we use automatically puts our PTIN on the bottom line of the 1040, and we sign that before we give you a copy. So make sure they sign the tax return and just don't give you a blank return without their signature, because that way if you have an issue, you can't go back on them because you have no signature that they did it. They just gave you a tax return, and they can deny they did it because there's no signature. We sign every tax return that you get. We give you a complete set to take with you, and we're accessible all year. So if you have an issue, a problem, or you lose it, you can call us and get another copy. And if you report any abusive tax preparers to the IRS, if you suspect fraud or something going on where a person is charging you an amount like $500, $800, or $1,000, then there's something going on with that. That's somebody committing fraud when they add something to your tax return to make your refund amount larger, and then they charge you $500 and you still get a lot. That is fraud, and you don't want to be involved with that because you sign your tax return. You're going to be the one the IRS is going to come after for the money back. So if you don't supposed to get that money, don't do that return if it's more than you ever gotten before, or if they say I can get you more back than some other place.
Sharon, that's some good information. You know, I know you've got 10 points there, but what I feel out of those 10 points that's very important is, one, make sure they're accessible all year round.
Yes, yes.
If I'm calling you constantly trying to get in touch with you to find out about a problem that I've ran into with IRS, I don't need you. So that's good. And also, never sign a blank
tax return. Yes.
Never sign a blank, because like you say, if they sign a blank, I can change it any kind of way I want.
Right.
I can add items to it if I want or whatever. So never do that. And then also make sure that your tax preparer is signing and have a signature on there themselves, as well as this PTIN.
PTIN, yes.
PTIN thing. And then when some people, you say they have these service fees, but I think those are good points, and we will review those again to make sure that our audience understand that these things you want to look for when you're choosing who you want to do your taxes.
Yes.
And you also stated, you know, you don't want to pick somebody, say they have a home business and they don't have this number attached to them.
Right.
That's a flag right there.
Yes.
So we want to be very careful in how we utilize the tax services and the people that are doing the taxes for us.
Yes.
I appreciate that information. Now let's go into talking about how you can a tax refund offset. The offsetting means in taxes.
Okay, a tax refund offset means that you owe someone. It could be a student loan, it could be child support, and it could be anything you owe, like a credit car that you didn't pay for, had repossessed. You have to understand that these things don't go away. So if you don't pay for something, it's going to be filed by that company, and they're going to get their money back. At the state level, when they file a lawsuit against you for a credit card that wasn't paid, a vehicle that was repossessed, the state can attach that, and that person can file a lawsuit, and that goes to the state of Michigan, and they in turn will flag, this company is called FMS, Financial Management Services, and they have that on file. So when you get your tax return done and we file it, that flag is there, they're going to pull your refund. On the state level, they can take only your state refund for vehicles, credit cards, Macy's, whatever. The state of Michigan refund can go to pay that. They cannot take your federal. The only thing that can take your federal for one of these is child support and student loans. If you have a student loan in default, they will take your refund. So if you haven't taken care of that, you receive letters for your student loans and you have not called them to put it in deferment or anything, you're going to have your refund tagged, and they will take it. Even if they say they're not going to because you called the IRS, they will take it. if you didn't have that taken care of. And child support, if you have not had that taken care of with the Family Independent Agency, your refund will be taken on the federal level. So what happens, we don't know that. We file your tax return electronically, and within an hour, we'll get back a code whether or not, it's okay. And if we don't get a refund for you within 5 days, then it was picked up, and then we'll send you a letter within 2 weeks. And at the bottom of that letter is going to state who took your refund, how much they took, and the phone number to contact them. You cannot contact FMS because they have no information on that third party. That third party is going to be listed on the letter, and you have to call them in order to find out about your refund and work with them to get that refund back.
Now, you stated, Sharon, that student loans, and is it child support?
Yep, student loans and child support.
So now when you electronically send this through, you said it takes about an hour for them to send it back to you, whether they accept it or not.
Yeah, whether it's accepted by the IRS takes an hour, so you know you have a good return and it's been accepted.
Now okay, so you know that as a tax preparer. Now once you receive that back, you're going to notify the client that, okay, I've gotten a flag back that they're not going to accept this, and there's a possibility that they're going to hold your money?
Yes, we would know that. If we don't get the refund back, then we tell them within 2 weeks you're going to get a letter stating why your refund was offset. There also is a website, irs.gov. Then on that website they have a little box that says refund. You click on that box and it takes 24 to 48 hours before it shows up, so you can't go right away. You have to give them 2 to 3 days. You go to that refund button on irs.gov, click on that, you put in your social security number and your refund amount. You have to have your refund amount that we give you, so you know what your refund is. You put that information in, a screen will come up and it'll tell you the information. It'll have your refund. If your refund says $3,766 and then a bottom line is grayed out, your whole refund is gone, which means it was offset. If it's been a change, they will put that change on the bottom, the new amount.
And with you giving this information out, I mean, I know it's a lot of information for our consumers today, but if they had a question, now they could always contact you. Is there a way that they could contact and find out what has happened to the refund?
Yes, we give a business card to everyone with their folder. Our phone number is on the front. It's 810-720-1331. If they give us a call, we'll tell them how to go online. If they don't have a computer available, we always go online for our clients, and we'll go into the website for them and look at the status of that return for them under irs.gov.
Okay, that's very helpful, because sometimes, I've had problems getting online and with different companies, and I have to call the help desk in a sense. So this way you're the help desk, because you are their tax preparer.
Right, and I'll do that for my clients, yes.
Very good. It's good to go that extra mile, because this is something that a lot of times we say, now where am I going to go now? But when we know that we've got somebody that's very dependable and that they'll go that extra mile for us, we don't mind calling you back.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
We were just talking about the FMS, which is Financial Management Services, which is the offset company that your money goes through when a tax refund is taken. The IRS will never take your tax refund or take your Social Security money from you until they have taken certain steps. First of all, if you owe the IRS, you're going to get a letter. Okay, you have to call them when you get those letters. They have a CP number on your letter and the 800 number. Call that number and take care of it. They give you anywhere from 1 to 2 years of letters before they start steps. And the first step is called a levy. And a levy is where they're going to tell you what we're going to start taking. The first thing they start is what you own: vehicles, your house, money in. They really can't get into your bank accounts and things like that. It starts out with property that is owned. The IRS knows that people that are retired, their Social Security monies, they will never ever take your Social Security. They don't just go to Social Security and take it from the agency, or they don't take it out of your account until you receive letters. So if you're getting letters saying that we're going to apply a levy to you, take care of that. We work with you on all kinds of arrangements. They have installment agreement requests. They have automatic payments that they'll set up with you. There's an installment form, a 9465. You fill it out, send it in. You can send them in as little as $25 a month. So to have peace of mind and not worry about them going and taking money from you, refund offsets, pay them the installment agreement request money. It's a fee for that form. which is $75 to $150, depending on whether or not your income level. And you can set up arrangements, like I say, $25 a month. You pick the day of the month you want it to go. You know when your money coming in. So if you need the 20th, you put that on the form. On the 20th of the month, they expect you to send it in. They provide envelopes and a little invoice they send you, or you can set up an arrangement where they can take it directly out of your checking or savings.
So now, Sharon, that is a very good information that we just shared. But what we want to talk about now, what are the things that a consumer needs to come to you to get their taxes prepared?
Okay, first of all, we take walk-ins, or you can make an appointment at our office. The number again is 810-720-1331. And if you're going to file a tax return with just yourself, we just need your information. You know, when you come in, we'll get your name, date of birth. You'll have to bring us your Social Security card. And if you have your last year tax return, please bring that. It helps us see how you filed the year before. And a valid driver's license or Michigan ID. Income tax information we need is your W-2s, interest statements, dividends, rental income, gambling or lottery winnings or losses. If you win a lottery or Soaring Eagles or any of those places, you're going to get a W-2G. We will use that information, and if you have losses, we don't need you to bring in all of your lottery slips and stuff like that. Just tell us the dollar amount that you lost, and we'll take care of it for you. So you don't have to think you have to bring us that box of paper in from there. Unemployment compensation, which is a 1099. So everything you receive that says tax on it, on the envelope, just bring it all in so that we don't have to go back and forth and have you come back and have to call you and not finish your tax return. We need all your deductions and adjustments. If you're a homeowner, we don't need your statements from your purchase of your home or anything, just the documents that they send you. Your mortgage company will send you your mortgage interest, and the banks will send you your interest statements. Social Security Administration will send you a Social Security statement. Please bring that in. We have instances where people do not bring their Social Security statements in. We have to have that number. Whether you get the same amount every year or not, we still need to see it. So that we know what box. There's more boxes on that than just. And the student loan entry is actually on a letter from Sallie Mae or Fannie Mae. When you borrow money from them, they send you a letter. That interest is on like one of the paragraphs, so I need that statement also. And that's about it for deductions. And we do have tax credits that you get, which are non-refundable. That will be daycare costs. So if you bring in information that your child was in daycare, we have to have the EIN number for the daycare provider or either their Social Security number. If they don't give you those numbers, we can't do a child tax credit form for you.
And the EIN number is?
Employer Identification Number, which daycare providers know they can get that online under the IRS website. Everyone who has a business can get an EIN number on the IRS.gov website.
Sharon, you brought up, and I was looking at your list there, you brought up something about the gambling of lotteries. Mm-hmm. You know, you have quite a few people, I guess, that goes to the casinos, mm-hmm. different places. But like you say, they don't realize that if I have a certain amount of wins, mm-hmm. that I need to report that even though I've lost more money than I've won.
Yes.
Because a lot of times what you can offset that where it's going to balance out, you might not owe anything.
Right. You might not owe anything. If you don't bring in the W-2G that you were sent, the IRS will send you a letter down the road telling you they received the W-2G for $5,000 and you didn't put in your tax return. That's going to change all of the numbers that were on that tax return, and they're going to send you a balance due to them. Mm-hmm. And if we had your losses, we could have put them on your Schedule A as itemized deductions to offset that winnings. But it's not dollar for dollar, but it will bring that amount down.
And is it something you can talk on as far as students or anything other than the student loans, or is it anything?
Yeah, for students, we like to tell students that if you work, and there's a lot of students that do work study at the colleges, the income that they make is so small that sometimes they don't have to file, but we don't know that unless we have their W-2s, and some students don't file exempts like they should, so they're going to have federal, state, and city taxes taken out. If you don't file your tax return with that W-2, you will not get your money back. So in order to get that money, we need to see their W-2s. If they did put exempt down like they should, then they don't have to file a return, but we won't know that unless we look at that W-2.
So now what about the students that they're students, they're working, and they own a house or they're renting an apartment? Can there be any type of deductions that will help them with that home ownership? or the deduction of rent? Can they use any of that?
It depends on how they filed. If they're still on their parents' tax return, their dependency exemption is gonna be gone because it's on their parents' return. As far as renting, they can do, that's a state form. Rent credit, they can do a state form for rent credit. If they are paying rent, we can do a state of Michigan rent credit form for them. Most of the time, the money that they're getting to pay, if it comes from the government as loans that are not payable back, you can't use that money to write off to get money back from. It's a wash. So if you're getting money from FAFSA to pay these costs, then you wouldn't be able to get a credit for it.
Okay, so they should be very conscious of what they're doing as far as student loans, the rental properties and things like that.
Yes.
That they're paying rent. And if they have any questions, they can always contact you to find out what the situation is, so they'll know what they need to do.
Yes, just give us a call and we can go over it right over the phone.
Now, Sharon, all this information that you've given today pertaining to taxes has really been great. But what I'd like you to do is go back and give some of the key points. One, as far as how you're going to look for a tax preparer, and then some of the other highlights that you think is very, very important. I mean, all of it's important.
Yes.
But we're going to take some highlights there that, as far as filing.
Okay. Number one was my tips on choosing a tax preparer. Make sure that person is accessible. They know what they're doing and they have a PTIN. That is the most important thing. They need to have a PTIN. They need to be accessible. If you have questions, you need to be able to call them after April 15th. So they don't have to have, you don't want to go somewhere like, I don't want to say names of companies, but some companies are seasonal. The offices are leased. When that season is over, they close. You cannot get in touch with them. They give you an 800 number. You still will not be able to get anybody to help you. So you want to find somebody that's going to tell you, I'm year-round and I'm here to help you, whatever you get a letter or anything like that. Another thing is the service fees. If someone charges you $500, you need to not have your tax return done there. And don't think just because you sit down at a desk and a person is totally done with your tax return and they tell you this dollar amount, you don't have to have your tax return done. They have to give you your information back and you can't leave because that return has not been filed yet. And until it's filed, you don't owe them. So I would just take my information back and go somewhere else because those fees are what the IRS consider overcharged.
Now, do they have to give you your information back? I mean, I'm sitting in front of you and you say, well, you're going to owe this amount. And I say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I want my papers back.
Yeah.
They're obligated to give me my papers back.
Yes, they have to. They cannot, by law, keep your information.
Okay.
And check the history. If you have any qualms or if you hear anything about a certain person, go online, Google it, and Better Business Bureau keeps a list of people who had issues, who are being sued by the government, who have been shut down. There is a company that has been shut down, and I don't want to say the name. A lot of people went to that company last year. They have been closed by the IRS, so you won't see that office open this year, and it was for fraudulent tax returns. They were charging excessive fees, $500 to $1,000 per tax return for fees, and they were filing people tax returns without their consent. They cannot file your tax return without your consent. So if you give them your information and you leave and you come back and it's filed, you need to call the IRS.
So it's very important to check the history of a company that you choose to go to.
Right.
Because as you stated, we have companies out there that have been shut down from the IRS because of fraudulent doing.
Yes.
And it's so important, everybody, check who you are going to work with. Make sure that their history and their information is good. Make sure they have a P10 number. Because if they don't have that number, you know something's not right.
Yes.
And that's still good information that you got rolling there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing that we didn't cover before is identity theft is really big with the IRS now. They're trying to put in filters to weed out some of that identity theft, where if something is sent electronically, they have filters on their system to pull that return. People who move around from place to place, you have to understand you're leaving your information with someone. Once they give you your copy of that tax return, they still have the information on their systems. And they can use that information to buy a house, purchase a car, credit cards, have consumers turned on, water, And that is considered identity theft because they have your information. So make sure that you go to a reputable place. Don't go to just somebody's house. Don't go to somebody who referred you to that person. Somebody who's walking down the street say, hey, go to this guy. He got me a big refund. You're giving pertinent information away. And make sure you keep a copy of your information that you did have filed with that person, so that if there's an issue when you go to somebody else next year, you have that copy that they can look over, and there's a way to check with the IRS to find out exactly what was filed, because you might have a fraudulent tax return done, and what you have is a fraudulent copy. We contact the IRS and they'll send us a copy of what was filed, and we can match those to what you have to see what that person did, because a lot of times they do a form. It's an 8888. It's a split deposit form. What that means is they file your tax return and they say your refund is $3,450. Then they redo it after you leave and your refund really was $54.58. They're going to keep that difference and use this form and put the money in their account and give you the $34.28. You will never know that you really were supposed to get $5,000. You would never know unless you had to have something done with the IRS. As far as your children, when they start school, they have to have their FAFSA done. A FAFSA has to have a 1040 that is correct. So when you go online and you fill out the FAFSA information with your 1040, if it doesn't match up, it's going to reject. That's the only way you're going to know that something different was filed. And so always get a copy. If you have questions or you feel uncomfortable, go to a reputable company. They'll look that over. We will look it over for you at Diversify, and we can find out whether or not that was a legitimate return file. It's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time to fix identity theft. So really be careful about where you go, because it's easier to go to a reputable company and pay the fees that they charge, and knowing that they're available year-round, to go somewhere that you're going to charge you $50 and you're going to have problems with the IRS. So pay the money for the tax prep fees and not have to give away the $2,000 or $3,000 from a fraudulent return.
And I want to say thank you for our viewers today for coming out, sharing all this good information. And I really appreciate you today, Sharon.
Thank you.
All right. You know, we're winding down today, and I really have enjoyed the program to get this information because it's going to be helpful for all of you. So if you do have any questions concerning your taxes, please give me a call at 810-423-8391. And I will get an expert that will be able to assist you, Sharon, from Diversified
Tax Service. Thank you.
And thank you again, Sharon, from Diversified Tax Service.